All right. So I'm not sure where I left off and what was the last thing you heard. Um, Let me see. Um, but experiment small, learn fast. That was number 8. And so just to recap that one, in case that's when it cut off or may have cut off right before that, you don't need to build the next platform or participate. You can actually start by testing tools, creating digital assets, exploring tokenized experiences. Innovation grows through experimentation. So just know that you can start small. You don't have to learn everything fast. Web3 is layered and it's a lot going on. So you don't have to learn all of that. Number 9 is lead ethically and inclusively. So I think that says it all, right? I think right now, especially in the age of AI, being ethical use, responsible use of technology is even more and more is becoming more important. It's always been important, but now it's like in our face. So I think that now it's about, if you're going to lead and position yourself in Web3, is that you think about innovation without ethics creates harm. And so part of, if you ever met a doctor, they have part of their oath is do no harm. And so part of this space is for us who want to be leaders and creators in this space and owners in this space is to do no harm. So anytime you embark on something, is lead from the standpoint of not trying to scam people or do things to move people out of a space where they can be educated about it, but be leaders where we can advocate for accessibility, where we can promote digital literacy. We can be the educators and teaching people how to do this, and creating teams around the things that we are wanting to create, the solutions we create. Ensure that those who are not present are included. I can't tell you how many spaces I go in and there are people missing from the table. Obvious perspectives, obvious conversations that are not being had because certain people are not a part of the conversation. So leadership means shaping technology responsibly. So part of being a leader is being responsible and lead ethically and inclusively. And the last one for these 10 strategies on how to lead innovation is become a translator and a guide. So translator meaning you're going to talk about these systems in a way where people can understand. So many times I talk to people who are techies and they're really tech savvy, and or they're really savvy in math, and I have no idea what they're saying. Even though they're speaking my same language, it sounds like they're speaking a foreign language. It sounds like they're speaking another language because it's not in a way that I can understand it. But if you think the greatest inventors in emerging technology are not always the coders, they are the ones who are translating. They're the people who are explaining exactly what it is clearly, where people can duplicate, right? Where they can do what you do, but do it in their way. So I encourage you to be the person who makes complex ideas understandable, help others enter the space. So invite other people into Web3, invite other people to the boot camp or to connect with the network so that maybe they can join the next one. If the registration for this one is closed. And so I just invite you to think about how can you help others enter the space. And connect your innovation with purpose. Like make sure that whatever you do it with intention, right? This is how we scale in Web3. This is how innovation scales, is if you connect it to a purpose, then you are more passionate about it and you're more likely to do it, as opposed to be something that you just do for the moment. So for this section, for the strategies, the future is not waiting. The future is being built. And that's you. right? Web3 is not just a technological shift, it's a mindset shift. And a lot of what I do starts with purpose and mindset, if you haven't learned it already from the last 20 minutes or so. Because that's where I start everything. That's the starting point for me for whatever I enter. Innovation belongs to those willing to learn, experiment, and lead with purpose. You don't have to know everything to begin, which is why you're here. And tell that to your friends when you invite them into the space and what you're doing, especially if you find what you're doing is beneficial and you enjoy it. And so we're at this point where now we are aware, like now we got to do action. And then what I always like to think about is, what is that transformation? How does it transform what I do in my life? So if there are questions, you can definitely put them in the chat on Telegram, or at the end, I'll have questions. I'm going to just talk briefly, real quickly, through some of the current opportunities to position yourself. Because I think many times we talk about this at the end of any boot camp. We talk about it at the end of any course, when it should be what you talk about first. And that's why I'm talking about it today. Because I think if you know to start thinking about how you want to position yourself, you can apply the content and the things that you're learning to what that is, right? You can start really thinking about it, and it's more impactful at the end of the boot camp or the end of the course. So, so just know that there's some things that have changed, right? When it comes to Web3 and what's happening. Before it was more this idea of speculation, and then it was like infrastructure and execution. And now if you look at it, hiring has moved from these hype roles like prompt engineer, things like that we heard at one point because it was really popular, to now it's moving to product, compliance, community. What are the roles that people are playing, right? And so just sort of think about those things as we move into this. I will say that, you know, I remember stable coins were really popular at one point and really it, and some still are, but I think now people are really thinking about some of the things that were considered a stable coin and some of the things that were considered to be so great in cryptocurrency are now, they're really moving into their position. And some of the things that you'll find that people, even were taking this cryptocurrency as a example, invested in back in 2021, they're finding that those things were meme coins. Those things were not viable projects. Like they really needed some thought. So now we're moving into really looking at things more intently. Like I say, AI plus Web3 and those roles are really growing. So I encourage you to kind of think about that. I won't be talking about AI this boot camp that I know of, but AI, Web3, blockchain, those things are really growing rapidly because organizations need people who know the tech, who knows the security, and who knows the latest trends, right? All three of those, right? And part of this position, I hear people all the time, oh, this or that is going to take my job. No, that's not going to take your job, but the people who know it will. So that's where we are. So here are just some things I want to I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them, but I just want to list them so you can just start thinking about what are some of the opportunities and how you want to position yourself. Real world assets, right? Tokenization. What does that look like? This has been one of the biggest shifts happening right now. Real estate, tokenization, infrastructure, investment, intellectual property, ownership, some of those things, those different fractional ownership models, those things are what's shifting now. What are those? What are some of these real world things that we can apply to Web3? So I encourage you to think about education, ownership, travel, experiences, things that you can really like. For me, those are the things that I would think about, right? If I was thinking about it, those are the things that are in my wheelhouse. I'll be thinking about what are some of the ways that that I can tokenize access. So even the app or the platform that I've chosen for my community, which is not on Faceplace anymore, now that is even on a platform that I can tokenize. So I made sure that I chose a platform that's already capable of being tokenized, not one that may be tokenized in the future. So some of those things you got to think about. AI Web3, I've mentioned this a couple of times. This is kind of the fasting growing area, especially with AI agents operating in decentralized systems. We're now kind of thinking about that. AI-driven governance and automation. Some of those things are really increasing. So this is an area that, you know, to think about, right? Even with ownership. Number 3, digital identity and ownership. This one is important to think about, like, how can you position yourself if this is something that's important to you and this is a focus of yours? What does this look like? Whether it's about credentialing and credential verification, whether it's about, and I think about education all the time, so I think about it in terms of education. And so in your industry, what are some of those positions? And I think we talked about that on the previous slide. So some of these you'll see a little overlap, because the same things that are strategies for you to be involved and be leaders are the same strategies that could create opportunities. I'll say that again for the people in the back or the people who may not have heard me the first time, is that the same opportunities that are strategies for you leading in this are the same things that create opportunities as well. All right. Number 4, creator and knowledge economy. So Web3 enables us to own our distribution, monetize communities directly, maintain our IP rights. NFTs, blockchain-based ownership, right, are already transforming creator revenue and models. And so these are things that you can just kind of think about, like, what are some of these things that create opportunities for you? And I just named a few. And then 5 is community governance and DAOs. That's an opportunity. So what does that look like, and what could that look like? People who understand community building have an advantage right now in Web3. It really became obvious in around 2022 about community, well, 2021, 2022. I think the pandemic kind of definitely accelerated this idea of community, because we started really focusing on online communities and what does it look like in a virtual space. And that really opened up communities. And I remember back in 2020, 2021, the Web3 communities were huge. Now some of those communities are not as active. Now some of those communities are not as engaging. And so now it's an opportunity for you to think about, like, what does this look like today, and how can I maintain the engagement? Because Web3 is less, now that we have a lot of no code options, is now less about our communities and governance being so tech heavy, that it's more about the leadership and the structure with the little tech, right? Tech is always there. I love tech. Some other opportunities that you can think about in the area of compliance, ethics, and regulation. If you are interested in that, and that is a topic that you enjoy, this is a playground for you now. Now you can think about policy, ethical frameworks, right? Compliance strategies. You can think about a lot of things. And so as you're going through this boot camp, consider what are some of those things. If this is your area, there's huge opportunities here. And so I encourage you to just keep your ear to the ground, as we like to say. Stay in the know around compliance and regulation, because it's going to be more and more important as technology advances. And it's becoming, and because of compliance, compliance and ethics and stuff is, I like it from a high level, but as an educator and as a strategist, there are so many opportunities if I really wanted to play in that space, because this is the time to educate people and to really get people onboarded in thinking about compliance and regulation and ethics. The next one is enterprise blockchain adoption. So things that help companies. This is kind of a quiet growing sector when it comes to healthcare and logistics. So if you're in healthcare, this may be an area you think about. If you're an educator, maybe the education records or how records are kept, supply chain verification, some of those. When it comes to enterprise blockchain adoption, this one is growing, and it's becoming more and more a space for opportunity, but stay tuned. If that's your area, if you work for a company or you're in big business and doing things on a larger scale, this may be an area that you may want to investigate more, right? Because companies are moving away from experimentation to real deployment. And so, so this becomes not one of those areas that you see, but it's something that is definitely there. I don't even know if a lot of people are just talking about it anymore like we were in 2021. Web3 and education and literacy is number 8. There's opportunities there. If that is what you like to do, that is probably where I position myself right now, when it comes to the literacy and just making sure people have basic knowledge. But this is also one of the areas that has the biggest gap. Which is surprising, because what did I tell you at the beginning about Web3? Web3 is about education, and this is still one of the gaps that exist. And I think that now people are finding out that some of the people who were educating back when and have educated, they educated for their benefit. They didn't educate people to really teach them how to be owners and creators in Web3. And that's what Web3 is about. So it's really important to have people who can communicate that, explain Web3 clearly, train teams, and design learning paths for the different organizations. So I'm really excited about this boot camp that y'all are in, and happy that the people leading it are doing it. So this is definitely an area, and this is definitely my lane. So 9, stable coins and digital payment infrastructures. Payments are shifting. Now we have cross-border transactions. We have creator payments. We have global freelance ecosystems. We have all these things that are happening. Some Web3 teams are already pay contractors in stable coins. And so these are things that, if this is an area, an opportunity that you want to consider, just think about, like, how can you play that, especially if you're in finance and you are more interested in how those things play out, and or creating a system for people to do these things. That's also a place where you can play. And then the last one here that I'll talk about today is community and ecosystem building. One of the most in-demand non-technical roles that are happening, or some of them, community managers, strategists like myself, ecosystem strategists, partnership builders, having partnerships and collaborating with other communities and other people who are complement what you're doing. And so just know that Web3 projects typically succeed or fail based on community adoption, right? Adoption is really important, which is why I showed that slide at the beginning as well. And so because of that, if you're going to be in Web3, you always got to think about, how are you connecting with your community? What does that look like? So those are just some of the things to think about when you're talking about positioning yourself and how can you leverage Web3. And so one of the things that has been a shift, before was all about the tech, being developers and coders. But now the opportunity is becoming a bridge between innovation and people. It's connecting people to what's happening in technology. So right now the opportunity is not as big as it was a few years ago, where people were really into crypto trading, chasing coins, and learning code overnight. Now people are moving in, and now it's creating a space, or the emerging things that are emerging, or those who are educators, those who are community builders, those who are able to translate those things that you're doing into this, which is why this boot camp was created, right? Because now this is creating a space for people to learn, for people to understand what Web3 is about. And then my job is, how does it apply to your life? I like to say that. So I guess my final thoughts are for today. Web3 is not only about technology, it's about opportunity, ownership, and your participation. And typically, if you're curious now, how are you going to apply it to your life? So those are just some of the things that I encourage you to think about. And just know that the next generation of Web3 leaders will not only be developers and engineers, but they will also be others, people who can solve problems. And so if you have a solution, this Web3 is a space for you. People who understand how technology can serve real people and in real communities, those are the people who will thrive. No matter if you're on the technical side, if you are a technologist, or if you are someone like me, a non-tech person, that's where the intersection happens. That's where the impact happens. That's where you'll thrive, is if you know how to serve real people in real communities. So I just encourage you to think about Web3, how it can be used to create access, expand opportunities, and build solutions, and reflect the needs of your community, where you are in the world, wherever you are. I forgot to ask where everybody was located and where you're joining me from, but wherever you're from, if you are somewhere in Africa, then how does that reflect the needs of the continent? So I'm really big on global, and so I think the future of innovation is global, and so it allows for me in the United States here to talk to you all. So I think that's really cool. I will say that I actually have a Substack, and I have where I talk about the things that I talk about: AI. I talk about future of work, future of learning. I talk about Web3. I talk about and I reflect on what strategies, right, practical strategies you can implement to innovate. And so some of those things, I have a Substack. I will stop sharing now so I can answer any questions that you may have. Well, I'm going to stop sharing when I see the button.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tammy. We really appreciate your time. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, we really appreciate your time. Just funny enough, I think Telegram does not have these emojis people can use to give you clappings and stuff like that. And yeah,
they don't have
but
it,
you did well. You did well. One of the things I would say, we are very privileged to sit under you teach. I think it's okay. I think somebody is even doing that. So please, if you can, just give us emojis, clap if you can. I don't really know how to use Telegram, but sitting under Dr. Tani, learning under her is amazing. You might not know her. She did not break down who she is. She just touched maybe some of the things of who she is. I guess maybe in her next class, she'd be able to break down who she is. Like she is very
Who
free.
am I?
Yeah, you can. So you can connect with her. If you have questions, you can drop in the group, or you can raise your hand or unmute your mic to ask. We have few minutes to go because I know Dr. Tammy, this is heading to her afternoon, and maybe she's going to catch up with some things. So if you have questions, you can either drop in the group or mute your mic to talk. But if you don't, we have class tomorrow. We also have Dr. Tammy on Monday. So let's prepare. I guess Dr. Tammy might be giving us something so for us to maybe go make some research. One of her keywords or one of her favorite words is, I think she doesn't call it do your own research, but she doesn't call it do your, but she say do your own research, like go learn more. But she's not also a fan of that because she believes that we that know should be able to keep telling people that don't know so that they can understand much better, so that when they do their research, they can blend it with what we've been able to teach them. So thank you very much, Dr. Tammy. So please, if anyone have question, you can unmute your mic and ask.
They're like, I don't know what to ask. Like,
You can
yeah.
ask. You can ask any question. Any question is valid.
Yes.
Any question is valid. So, but maybe if you don't have, I'll ask Dr. Tammy something. Okay, so
Okay.
if I'm a new person in the space, I'm just
Hmm.
hearing block. I'm just hearing Web3. What do you
Hmm.
suggest I do even after this class? Like, what do you suggest? How do I begin? How do I begin?
So one, that's a great question. And so I try to sprinkle some things in, some terms I hope that you heard over and over again. So if anyone's new, there may be some terms. So I think first of all is terminology. I think a lot of things that get confusing or people misunderstand is because the terminology. And there's some key terminology to Web3. So I would definitely start there. Now I am Kenneth remembers. I love it. He remembers my philosophy about do your own research. So I also believe that you should start um, with people. If you're going to follow people, you're going to research people, you're going to follow somebody's ideas, is that you make sure it's a credible source. Not everyone is speaking the same thing or saying the same thing. Not everyone is doing the same thing. And so you have to be careful with that. So I always like people to start with people that you know, or like if any of the facilitators of the boot camp have recommended someone, that you start there. So one, there's some key terminology. Things like decentralization, blockchain technology, smart contracts, NFTs, DeFi or decentralized finance, decentralized autonomous organization, DAOs, ownership. Some of those things that if you couple it with the term Web3 and this, Web3 and, blockchain, Web3 and decentralization. If you start just learning the terms, that's a good place to start. Following people who are credible sources, who are reliable sources, who have been in this and doing and talking about it in a way that is not just to gain your attention to benefit from you, but they're also giving back. So definitely the facilitators of this boot camp, follow what they're doing in their projects. I know Kene is involved with Teen Girls and Blockchain. So follow some of those things that are a part of the facilitators that you already trust. Follow the people that they follow and what they're doing, because I think that's a great start. You always don't want, when you go out and you just Google or you just search, that's fine, make a list, but then always, I'm a researcher, so I like triangulation. I don't like just one source, one friend, one search, one this to recommend something. I like to have 3 different types of sources. Maybe not only do I search it, but I also talk to someone or ask in the next class, has anyone heard of XYZ? And then see what other people have heard, get other opinions, and then maybe go on to some places like and then look them up, right? Do a little deeper dive research. Even if you're just starting with LinkedIn, like look at other places, but be aware that not always the first thing you find or discover is the best. That's why I always start with something that you know, and then let that lead you, as we like to say in this space, down the rabbit hole. But you always proceed with caution. Never take anything face value the first time you encounter it. The same thing for me. So this is the first time some of you are encountering me. So you probably want to learn a little more before you like, okay, that lady's okay. That Dr. Tammy's not too bad. And that's okay. And that's what I expect you to do as thoughtful leaders in Web3, is that you are doing some of those things that where you're actually doing, and that's what I like to call as your own research, right? Is always start with the credible and then move, but never take those things that you encounter the first time as gospel. Make sure that you do additional research and or go back to your original source and say, have you heard? Do you know about? Do some of those things. That's a long answer. Sorry, Kenny.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Tammy. I think you did justice to that. This space is also recorded. This a boot camp is recorded, so a lot of people will be listening to it. Before maybe we go ahead, I'll introduce the network. This is more like the way you have let's say California state. Yeah, California is state there. This is more like a state blockchain network, different cities, different towns coming together to be part of this. So we are running it to encourage our people from the southeast part of Nigeria. So a lot of them will be reaching out to you. I know some of them will want you to mentor them. You've been an amazing person in the space. I don't know, but if I tell them how long I've known you, they might be surprised. But you are an amazing person.
How long
Yeah,
has it been? I'm curious. How long has it been?
it's crazy. It's more than 6 years, 6 to 7 years. Yeah, it's more than that.
Yeah, it's been a
So
long time.
definitely. So I think some of them would want to reach out. So feel free to reach out to Dr. Tammy, ask the necessary question. And she's someone who believes in you reading, you understanding, because she's someone who did education, she studies, she's a strategist. So she doesn't believe in too much questions, to not knowing much, not yeah. So I'll just
Yeah.
end it here because we don't have much time today. So you could go
Okay.
and we could be able to digest what we have. So please, Dr. Tammy would be sharing either the slide with us. We can give to them as well. We can drop it in the group. Maybe share with Mr. Raf so that we can share with them. They will be able to, go through it each time, make their own notes, make their own slides to be able to sync it into them, because I think those key points are very enticing, are very good for one to be able to understand, memorize, and get to know the steps and what to gain and what to follow in the space. Like you said, things are changing, things have changed, it will continue to change. We are in the era of real world assets, we're in the era of compliance, we are in the era of education. So please
Yeah.
don't take education as something like, oh, I don't want to learn. Now the education people don't know is that we are not only in the era, the blockchain people did a lot of technical education back then, a lot of trading education, which is crypto. But right now it has shifted to formal education. People are formalizing it in universities for MSc, BSc, secondary
Yeah.
school, high colleges. These are the places it's going to. Regulation is coming in. Education regulation is coming in because a lot of jargons have been taught in the space, but people are coming to regulate it. The crypto regulation is coming in, compliance, blockchain is coming in, a lot of things. So please be strategic as you are learning in this boot camp. Pick a niche, and I bet you that after the boot camp, few months down the lane, you beat your chest to say, "Thank God I joined, I learned, and I encountered persons like Dr. Tammy." So thank you very much, Dr. Tammy, on behalf of the team, on behalf of the class, I won't say the student, I'm a student as well. On behalf of my colleagues, who are learning with me, we say thank you and we'll see you on Monday. Cheers and stay cool.
Thank you. Y'all have a great weekend.
Ciao, ciao,
Thank
ciao.
you, Dr. Tan. Thank you so much. Ciao.